There are secrets out there, guys, performance marketing secrets, and knowing just one or two of them can light up your funnels. Let's go. This is Performance Marketing Insiders. I'm Chris Mechanic. Join me as we go deep into the secrets of the world's elite marketing minds. Performance Marketing Insiders is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI-driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode. I can't wait to just jump right in with today's guest. Today's guest is a long-time marketer. It's one of those types of marketers that's just incredibly well-rounded to the tune of before I was even knew about anything about internet marketing, like he was already running, 7 and 8 figure accounts. And as originally he was at the General Insurance. He's an insurance guy. He's been in the insurance space for a long time. Then he went to Direct Auto, and then did a long stint at TransUnion and just posted some really impressive win stories there. Then he was at Root. He's now VP Marketing at Equity Trust Company. So really just amazing marketer, like paid media, conversion rate optimization, analytics, like kind of the whole package of a marketer. Who's worked in Fortune 100. He's done his own thing. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce David Drotos. Welcome to the show, David.
Hey there, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. And you are really impressive. I mean, I'm on your LinkedIn right now. You've got some of your case studies posted there. I think there was something about a 50x increase in revenue, from 2 to 50 million in revenue over 3 years at Direct Auto. Like, that is just insane.
Yeah, that was one of the good ones.
So I've got a lot of questions, lots to talk to you about, but we want to give the people what they want. So let's start with your biggest secret. Like, as you think back on all your win stories to date, like what are some of what's just one of the big secrets that enables you to post such big wins?
Yeah, it kind of comes down to the first thing is knowing who your customer is and what your unique selling proposition is. You need to have that really coalesce before you can point your arrows at the target. If you don't know what you're hunting for, you don't know where what you're hunting for sleeps, eats, what it does, you're gonna have a hard time finding that target. Just to use a hunting analogy, but it starts with that. Once you have that really well nailed down. My success in a lot of respects has come from what I would call sort of micro testing and really iterating rapidly on small changes. It doesn't have to be a huge production. I think learn and fail fast and iterate and grow. That's been really key to getting stuff done. I think a lot of folks let great get in the way of good, good get in the way of done. I'd like to say, don't do anything just to do it and get it done well. Yeah. But I'd say that if there was one secret, I'd say it's that, but it still has to be founded in what your product is, why it's different than your competition in a way that people, your target audience cares about. So the USP part, the unique selling proposition, really key, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to micro testing, that's an interesting concept. How would you describe micro testing? Is it different than regular testing, or is it just a faster pace of iteration?
Yeah, it's really faster pace. The idea is get to a conclusion quickly. I think if you put too many variables in market, whether it's an ad unit, an audience, a media channel, that you're setting yourself up for what I call something that's precisely inaccurate, right? The more levers of precision you introduce in it, the harder it's going to be to get to a statistically significant conclusion. So focus on one thing, whether it's a type of ad creative, whether it's a channel, whether it's an audience, whether it's a call to action, and whether it's a color of a button, and just focus on that and get it done. I think the idea of rapid testing, drawing conclusions, really important to get through. So
I see. So is it this concept of essentially, like, if you think of your ad dollars as capital, right?
Sure.
Are you saying essentially that instead of allocating your capital across like 10, different variables or different tests, to really concentrate all or most of the capital behind one singular point of testing, so that you can just really rapidly test that one thing, and depending on what you're spending, you might get stat sig like in a day or two, and then to move on to
There's
the next thing?
yeah, maybe a little bit different than that. I think um, you certainly can heavy up on a single aspect of it. What I wouldn't do is introduce different components into any single media test. For example, if test A is here's a new creative and a new audience and I don't know, a new call to action. Test B is here's a control creative, maybe a slightly different audience, maybe a slightly different call to action. You've got too many things there that are able to color the test. So a test should be clean, it should be pure, and you could have 5 or 6 of these things going on at a single time, but keep things isolated, keep things draw stat sig conclusions on a test by minimizing the control variables, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to outline there.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And are there certain elements for you that you will start testing with? Like, do you generally start with one thing or another, or is it all situational?
It really depends. I feel like, again, you try to start with the best audience that you possibly can. Now, there's a limit to how far you can go with building lookalike audiences in different channels, right? Sometimes you just have to pick an audience or pick a cohort that seems to align closely with who your target customer is.
Mm-hmm.
So audience testing is one aspect. Usually the thing that I'll try to go for is creative testing out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you know, sometimes the creative has to differ by channel as well. What works on TikTok isn't necessarily going to work on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
isn't necessarily going to work on YouTube. So you have to think about that thoughtfully as well. But the quicker you can get to a stat sig conclusion, the better your marketing efforts are going to be, because it's all about removing components that are gonna negatively impact your ROAS. You
Yeah.
wanna really get to the answer quickly. So the more observations on a given question, the quicker you are going to get to the answer. So
Yeah.
minimize the questions, statistically speaking, and try to drive to that conclusion as quickly as you can. So that, to me,
So
it's speed to the answer more than number of questions I'm trying to answer.
when you think about all the tests you've run, are there any that jump out at you that you're most proud of, or that you were most excited by?
I'm
Can you
thinking
tell
about
us a
that.
story?
I when I was working at TransUnion, so I was actually not on the marketing side as much as I was on the product development side. So we were creating marketing solutions for insurance companies, and one of the things that we brought to market was something called in-market audiences, and these
Mm-hmm.
audiences would align themselves with activities we'd see on the credit file that would be highly correlative or predictive of someone shopping for insurance. And in the digital ecosystem, from event to actually getting an impression, if you're going through a traditional onboarding solution, that could take maybe 2 weeks, right? And 2 weeks is a lifetime in the digital ecosystem. So working directly with one of the platform providers, I think it was Facebook, we had a direct integration with them using synthetic IDs to marry up in-market consumers to impressions. And so we could do that in about 24 hours. And the first time we tested that for an insurance client, the results were phenomenal because
Wow.
think about what drives a piece of direct mail. So I've been in the direct mail business too. So there's an event that happens. The next day, a piece of mail goes out, and it's about as close as you can sort of get to the event. And this is offline data to an offline medium. But to get that offline intent signal and marry it up to a digital ad impression and see the results and the response rate on that is just super huge. I won't tell you who the client was. It was a top 50 insurance company, but significant win for them. And frankly, one of the things I wanted to, one of the reasons I want to get back on the advertiser side is because I wanted to use some of the things I'd built and learned in my time at Product. So
Awesome.
Great win
So
for me.
the
Great win for
quality
them.
of those audiences just increased dramatically because you were able to get at them, 24 hours after they were searching for insurance or
right. And it's the intent signal, a different type of intent signal, not someone that raises their hand, say, "Hey, I'm searching for auto insurance," or on browsing on an aggregator site. This is something that they may have done offline. Think about connecting, I don't know, your purchases at Target, and hey, looks like you may like sugar cereal, and you get an ad for sugar cereal. The equivalent in auto insurance is, "Hey, I changed my address," or I opened up a mortgage, or I opened up an auto loan, things like that. And to be able to build on that and create these marketing audiences is pretty powerful.
Yeah. So what brought you to Equity Trust? Because that's not insurance.
It is not insurance. No. It's an interesting story. So I left TransUnion to go to an insurtech out of Columbus called Root, and Root was getting pretty rocky. As like many insurtechs, many insurance companies, as a result of the pandemic, really started to have struggles with profitability. So I left there early last year and was looking for the right gig, and Equity Trust kind of found me, and we found each other, I guess. And very interesting business. They're in the IRA custodian business, self-directed IRA. So that just means you can hold alternative assets in your IRA, things like real estate, cryptocurrency, precious metals, physical gold, things like you wouldn't necessarily associate with a retirement account. So the opportunity was a pretty interesting one to help build awareness around something that a lot of people don't know anything about. And right in my own town, this is the biggest one of these in the United States, was right there. So it's been a good fit so far. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, you've been there a year, so I guess you're getting settled in now.
Yeah.
What does your day-to-day look like? Like, are you in platform, either pulling the dials or like closely watching, or are you more so like overseeing agencies and a group of people that are doing it?
Yeah, I'd say it's the latter. I'm not buying media. We work with a performance agency that works on our behalf. I also do some paid media in-house with folks on my team, mostly paid clicks, some Google Display Network, but actively working on pilots to bring new ideas to bear, particularly around using their own first-party data to build better audiences. That prior to me going there wasn't really a thought of saying, "Hey, let's look at our customer list and say who's the best customers, who do we want more of, and how do we find them? How do we identify them? Who's the highest lifetime value customer?" And so going through that exercise and working with our data science team to pull those folks out and say, "Hey, this is the person we want more of. How can we find them?" That's been a pretty big revelation for them. And so that's been a lot of the focus in the last, I'd say, 120 days, getting those audiences up and running, testing them and optimizing. The other piece is testing new channels and new ad creatives that they've never used before. They've really never done a lot of advertising out of some programmatic and a lot of pay-per-click. And you have to generate awareness of your product. And so a lot more focus of late on more middle funnel, not really top of funnel at this point. But under the marketing team, it's beyond paid media. We've got quite a lot of other things. You know, I've got a whole content team, big on content, big on education, email. We have project management, the social team that's starting to grow. That's another area I think where we can really have a lot of influence on top of funnel rather than mass media. A lot of compelling content that we have and things that people should be interested in. You know, if you could make, you know, in a down year of the stock market when people lost 20% in their portfolio, if you could beat that in your retirement account on a consistent basis, and there's a way to do it, you probably want to know about it. So there's a really timely narrative right there I think we can exploit and talk about. So totally. Yeah, day to day, lots of stuff going on there. You know, from a strategic perspective, where do we drive this bus over the next 90 days or the next year? What are our KPIs? How are we going to measure them? Another big thing is identifying what our acquisition cost actually is. What are we getting for our media spend? No one's been able to answer that there, in large part because it's a offline conversion ecosystem. Just like you would imagine, a lot of companies spend money on digital. They drive folks to a set of business development folks, sales agents, and then that lead goes into Salesforce, and then there's some invisibility to some extent on what happens to it by the time it closes. So a lot of influence establishing the value of what our dollar is in terms of media ROI. That's been a big focus for us too. So,
yeah, and you're not the only ones there. We've been doing a lot of that online to offline conversion tracking. It's really just our savviest clients that are into it, or the highest volume clients that are into it.
Right.
And of course, you can use those signals, to your point, like to create better audiences and to, you know, like identify some of the differences between the ones that, you know, pick up the phone and enter pipe, and the ones that don't. So there's definitely an AI element to that. But even if there wasn't, like even if there was no AI element, but you were just able to see it in platform, like as a media buyer, you know, because right now it's like clicks and leads, basically. But even just visibility, like clicks, leads, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, close. Like even if you could have like that view, this is what I tell clients when they're don't want to, or when they like, you know, don't really believe in the AI or what have you. Just having that view for a media buyer is important, because usually your lowest cost per lead campaigns are not the highest return.
For sure. We see that a lot. The other thing is the organizations, if they're living off paid search, pay per click, that most of those folks have a high intent already. They're already hand raisers. They've already searched for your brand or searched for something related to your brand, self-directed IRA, and the likelihood of those to become a lead and then follow through to become an account is higher than someone who doesn't even know what a self-directed IRA is. So, you know, you have to. There's a bit of burn-in and brand awareness that has to happen in order to start making those things more efficient. And just in the last 90 days, when we started to spend more middle funnel, we're starting to see click-through rates get higher. I think our CPCs are lower right now, and probably it's more of a seasonal thing, but we're getting more branded impressions, and that's directly, you know, I think correlated to this middle funnel spend that we've never really done before.
What do you consider middle funnel when you say middle funnel?
I would say, you know, to me, Facebook is sort of middle funnel. It's a bespoke targeted audience, LinkedIn display, sort of middle funnel. I would even argue YouTube to some extent is middle funnel. You know, the calls to action are driving folks to a lead magnet where, hey, here's a real estate investment guide that's valuable to you. If you want to get it, put in your name and information, you can get it, things like that.
Yeah.
Right. But, we're not running OTT, we're not running streaming audio yet. I think we'll get there, but we're starting with a relatively small budget too. So I know a lot of folks out there who don't have that, 6 and 7 and 8 figure budget. Well, 6 figure you should, right? But at companies I've been at before, we've had hundreds of millions of dollars of budget, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes sort of, well, how do you spend all this efficiently, right? So sometimes the folks who have less to spend have to be more creative and have to be really more judicious in how they spend their dollars and where they spend them at. So that's kind of key.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, what are your channels that you're most excited about? Are you doing much with YouTube at all?
Just starting to get into YouTube from a paid perspective. We really haven't done a lot on the video side. Now that's with the agency we're working with. They've done a really nice job helping us leverage our own in-house education experts and others to build some compelling content to run on TikTok and YouTube. Those channels are exciting to me. Honestly, I'm kind of excited about testing direct mail too, and the reason that is because I think this particular customer, again, going back to who your target customer is probably someone I'm going to call them, I don't know, 35 to 55 years old, has some investable assets. They're probably more likely to respond to a direct mail piece than, I don't know, maybe you, Chris, I don't know. And the power of building a very strong response model using that type of modeling, that type of data. So one of my goals with that is to find some winning audiences and then export those to our digital channels. There's only so far you can go with a Facebook lookalike audience or some other platforms black box lookalike audience. That I'd much rather create a population outside of that ecosystem and push it through a DMP, and then reach the people that ostensibly I'm reaching through direct mail as well.
Yeah. I saw a pretty clever, actually I experienced a fairly clever direct mail play not long ago and learned about a tech. But it essentially will identify certain anonymous users, or at least like attempt to, and it'll match some portion of your traffic and provide for those anonymous users that have public record about them. So say a homeowner, for instance, or car, auto owners, will attempt to extrapolate and get, name, email, and physical address. So I came upon this tech which enabled that. And essentially, so like say you get 100 clicks to your landing page and you get 20 conversions or 10, however many conversions you get.
Right.
And then you get some just zombies that do nothing, but then you have that like middle of, the folks that like engaged a little bit, scrolled up and down, maybe clicked somewhere, but didn't convert. If you could identify half of those and enroll them into a little direct mail campaign, that's like a source of pretty hot audience right there.
Is that Posty by chance?
A lead post is the one that I've used.
Okay. Yeah, Posty is one I'm familiar with too, and that would also be an interesting test for this audience.
Yeah,
so it's totally hear you. I think the idea of reaching folks out, it's to some extent a triggered mail campaign, right? You did something that would indicate you have an interest in this product, and so here's a piece of mail to follow up on that. And ideally, the mail would have some modeling around it. Who's most likely to respond of the people you identified? So you have to have enough of those to build a decent remarketing pool too. But I like the idea of that. That's one of the things that I've been kicking around in my mind. I don't think we have the scale on the website to really do that tactic justice. This is not like my days at Progressive Insurance, right? You get millions upon millions of uniques every month. So a lot smaller quantity, but that I definitely think that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. Are you guys regulated heavily? Like, are you able to retarget, like do basic retargeting or no?
Yeah, we can retarget folks. Financial services, insurance, you're all regulated on things. The one thing we can't do, which I could do in insurance, is use credit data. And credit data is super powerful when it comes to identifying intent and then identifying risk profile. So you see most of your direct mail is coming from financial institutions, your credit cards, the Capital Ones, the Citigroups of the world, or the Discover. You get the credit card apps in the mail, and insurance companies. So when you get a piece of mail from any of those entities, typically it's driven by credit, because it's everyone's got a credit score. And it's regulated by the FCRA. So these folks, they're super regulated in how they use it. But yeah, as far as we're concerned, there are certain things we can and can't say. Like the biggest regulation is, as a custodian, you can't give true investment advice. That's the customer is really the director of the business, like what gets invested in it. So I can't tell you as a customer, hey, you should buy real estate, but I can educate, and I can provide education around what some other customers are doing and things like that. So I think that's the biggest really sensitivity around this business, is how you dispense education and make it not advice, and how you disclaim it as not being advice, and this can't be construed as advice, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the biggest thing, is treading the line between education and something that could be construed as advice. So any self-directed custodians got that restriction. That can get you in a lot of trouble if you do that the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I imagine. So it sounds like you are, like, one of your big challenges is that visibility, that down funnel visibility. What are some other challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, it's the media weight for this business is still not where it needs to be. I don't think anyone has really in a convincing way illustrated what the ROI on ad spend is. That's been a big question for them. What am I getting for my money, right? You see that in a lot of organizations too. It's not just ones like this, but I've been at Root, for example. They struggled with brand spend. Like, no one could illustrate what we got for millions of dollars of investment, and so some folks, that meant like it was a waste of money completely. So really tying back return on ad spend is the biggest piece. I think that's one of my biggest challenges, and I'm getting close to what I think is a reliable CAC model using the data sets I have available and the tools I have available. It's primarily Salesforce and some proof points around aging. This customer takes, it's another challenge too. This customer takes on average 60 to 90 days to convert from the time they reach the business to the time they close. And there's a lot of nurturing that happens in between that, whether it's email, whether it's follow-up phone calls, things like that. So you got to look at acquisition over a longer run. And so that's another big challenge too. So media weight, time to convert, just brand awareness, right? So I think those three things. So brand awareness, I think our big opportunity is in social, and probably to some respect in the influencer community. There's a lot of people that operate in this circle around real estate investing that this company has a lot of connections with, and we do events with them. And so how do we jack up our social presence to get some of that juice from the other influencers who are talking to the similar customer that we want to talk to? So I think there's a big opportunity there for us right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of real estate investors. Grant Cardone comes to mind as one with a massive reach.
Yeah, well, that's one of the folks that we are currently partnering with too. Just started. Just got a video out there on. Actually, it'll be coming out next week. So we did a joint webinar with him. We're going to start doing some more. So he's a big one. Andrew Cordell's another guy. Money
Yeah.
is. He's got a show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Grant Cardone is an interesting character. He's got
Yeah.
kind of polarizing figure, but you can't deny he's got some real sway.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. All right, very cool. Well, I'm excited for you. It sounds like you guys are doing some amazing things at Equity Trust, and I probably should be a client of yours because I do have an IRA, as well as a couple rental properties, but I do not own the rental properties in the IRA, and I could probably would I pay zero taxes at all on the rental income, or is it?
If you have it in a Roth IRA, so that's the key. If you got a Roth, then you can start putting these properties in there. And our main education, our head of education, John Bones, this is his favorite catchphrase. He says, "Compound interest in the absence of taxation." So you think about putting rental properties or whatever in an IRA, and the game of leveraging equity in one to down pay in another, and that just stacks on itself.
Yeah.
Imagine having that in your retirement account and then not being overly weighted on just stocks and bonds. So that's the whole magic of these things. They, as a company, they can't tell you what to invest in, but they're heavily on the real estate side. So yeah, I didn't know these things even existed until I started to work here, and I'm like, wow, this kind of makes a lot of sense. So
now, if you're not able to contribute to a Roth IRA, because the income limit is like 120K, I think.
Yeah.
Does that matter, or can
you
still do it in a Roth?
You could still do. You need to have a Roth IRA to be set up in the first place, but I think there's certain contribution limits. Again, we're getting over my skis in terms of what you can and can't do, I guess. But I've rolled over IRAs before to make them into Roths. You have to pay the taxes up front. I think there's certain conditions or times where you can do this if government sort of gives a reprieve on income limits. But certainly, if you're self-employed, you can open up a Roth 401k and start contributing post-tax. Those things can be converted into a self-directed. So all kinds of retirement accounts can be converted into self-directed. And then once it is self-directed, you can start doing all these alternative assets in them, which is really interesting. But the real power, man, if you have a Roth of some form and you can do this sort of investing, right? It's all that income at age, whatever it is, 59 and a half, that's just tax-free income because it's being earned by the IRA, not by you, and then you take it out tax-free. So
yeah,
pretty powerful.
I do have a Roth, so I should be your customer, I think.
Maybe you should.
Yeah.
Come check us out.
Cool, man. Well, this has been awesome. I am curious about, is there any tech that you're super excited about? Like any new tools that you guys are looking at, or?
Yeah, there is one. There's a company, they're based out of Cleveland called Bright Edge. They're SEO tool, and I brought that to them. What's really powerful about their tool is, you can get a lot of comparison analysis from SEMrush, things like that. But this tool, half the challenge is, well, what do I do to my pages? What do I need to do to update content? Like what H1 tags, things like this. The platform it provides recommendations, and it tells you what you literally need to do to that page from a coding perspective to fix it. And so I have a content team. They're great writers. They're not SEO people. And so having a tool like this, and we have an SEO coach from them that meets with us every other week to help guide us along in those recommendations and pick off these things. It's been incredible. Like I think we implemented that tool maybe in totality middle of December. And we're now here at middle of January. We're already starting to get a little bit of link juice out of that. Already starting to see some good lift. So if you're in the market for an SEO tool, I know it's not a performance marketing tool, but Bright Edge is it's right at the top there for me for terms of organic rankings.
Yeah, it's not cheap, is it?
No, it's not cheap.
It's like
It's up there.
5,000 a month, kind of.
Yeah, it's around 50,000 a year. But if you can, if you do the math and you get X number of dollars from organic and you can increase that by Y, and it
True.
offsets the cost by a couple of clicks. That's the measuring stick I'm using for that on that one, because organic's really important to this company. It should be to everybody. Outside of that, I think I don't know if there's any other specific ad tech I'm super excited about right now, familiar with, but that one got my attention for sure.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, it's time for a couple of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
If you're ready for it.
Ready as I'll ever be.
The first one is top reads, like 2 or 3 reads or 2 or 3 influencers who have really made an impact in your career.
All right. I would say one of my all-time classic reads is by Steve Krug. It's called Don't Make Me Think. Mm-hmm. And it's an early UX book. And the stuff he talks about in there really sort of sticks in my brain about,
I know that book. I love that book.
Yeah. It's just classic. I mean, UX has evolved obviously since that book was written dramatically. Mobile has taken off, but the principles of that book are just. I started my career really as a user experience person, then I got into marketing. But man, this thing really powerful for me. Another business book I think it's really fascinating is Blink by gosh, what's the guy's name? I'm just blanking him right now.
Gladwell.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Malcolm Gladwell. And just the idea of human intuition being so powerful, right? I think we tend as people to outthink a lot of stuff, and you overthink things. And the reality is there's this, innate fight or flight sort of mechanism that drives a lot of who we are and what we do. And we lose sight of that as intelligent thinking beings sometimes. So that's powerful to me. And I'll just throw an author in there in a book that I love. It isn't a business book per se, but Stephen King's one of my favorite authors. And there's a book called 11/22/63, which is I don't know if you've heard of this one, but it's actually made it into a mini series on Hulu. But it's about time travel, and this guy is able to go back in time through this portal over and over and over again. But basically, he uses it to try to stop the JFK assassination, and it's super interesting, super cool. I've read the book. I think I've read it 3 times. I want to say at least twice, but I think I got through it 3 times. And every time, and it's such a rich book. And there's a couple ones for you.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely include those in the show notes. Next up, and my favorite one, if you were to start a side hustle, what would it be?
Side hustle. Good question. I do have a sort of a side hustle in that I'm a musician as well. So I play in a band called Robbing Mary. But if I did the side hustle beyond this, I would probably consult for the insurance industry on marketing, because it's a very specific animal. The nuances of good versus bad in there, and profitability versus non-profitability. It really is a math equation. You gotta make more money than you spend out on claims, and the whole dynamics of that. So there's that's where I spent the majority of my career in, and I know a heck of a lot about that ecosystem, and I know a lot about the carriers and the players and the competition. So if I was just doing side hustle, I'd do insurance marketing consulting there.
Nice. That sounds good, man. I'm sure you'd do well. And then finally, how do you avoid burnout?
Yeah, it's easy to get burned out in today's day and age, right? There's a couple things I like to do. Like I talked about music, so music's great. I've got a upright piano out in my living room here. I'll go and bang on that for a while. I'm a keyboardist. That was my instrument. I love mountain biking during the biking season here. Living in Cleveland, that's like, May to October-ish. But from a work perspective, you just have to be able to put limits around your stuff. It's easy if you like what you're doing to get sucked into it. I think especially people who work at home now, there's this mystery or sort of myth, I guess, that people work at home, don't work as hard. I think it's kind of the opposite. I think it makes it easier to sort of feed that, addiction, if you will, to work on a certain project or dig in because you get into it. And you just have to set boundaries for yourself, right? I don't typically answer emails after a certain period of time. I try not to send them out. I try not to let people think that I think that's okay, so there's that.
Yeah.
I like to go for hikes with my wife sometimes when I'm working at home. Try to do that, take the dog. So just have to be conscious of that. And, life is way more than just working, So that's, I guess, a couple of ways that I keep myself from burning out. And don't try to get trapped in doing the same thing over and over and over again. If you're in a job that's all you do, like you're only focusing, I don't know, on SEO optimization, that's a surefire way if you do that for 3 or 4 years and nothing else that you're going to burn out. So variety, find opportunities that challenge you and make you grow. And if you're feeling like you're doing the same thing over and over again, it's probably time for a move.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, that was amazing, David. Thank you so much. We learned a lot. Everybody listening, if you are liking this as much as I am, please drop a like, a comment, or a thumbs up. David, if folks want to learn more about you or Equity Trust, where would you direct them?
Yeah, visit Equity Trust's website. It's trustetc.com. You'll find what you need about that. And for those who are interested in meeting me, learning more about me, you can find me on LinkedIn, David Drotos. So search bars work. You'll find me pretty quickly.
Awesome. I definitely need some property in my Roth IRA, so I'm going to go secret shop your funnel right now, and I'll report back soon. No,
all right, man.
Cool.
Chris,
thank you very much.
Thanks a ton.
All right, we'll talk soon. And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at performancemarketinginsiders.com. This podcast is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the performance agency that makes you smarter, offering AI-driven search, paid social, analytics, and conversion rate optimization for financial services, health, B2B, and SaaS brands that know. Hey guys, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, you can get a performance marketing assessment for free. And this isn't some cookie cutter automated report. It lays out detailed, specific things you can do right now to unlock limitless growth and nirvana level personal satisfaction. To claim your free assessment, just go to performancemarketinginsiders.com/audit and you'll have your customer report within just a few days.